What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Ace, and today we're back with another video. And if you haven't got a chance, guys, you need to go watch the mysterious news of the 3 young men who passed away after attending a Kansas Chiefs party. They met up, and the story is still ongoing. There's still a lot of mysterious things about that, and we will be updating everybody on this story. Today now, we want to jump into a topic that I think is growing, not only in certain regions, but across America. And we want to touch on the migrant situation, right? The migrant situation that they're now calling a crisis throughout New York, Chicago, Boston, Texas, and many parts, cities across the country is seeing this growing problem. And we just want to touch on this because it is an election year, and I think it's very important to pay attention to agendas and pay attention to what's happening under our eyes. So let's jump right into this video. Let's go.
Tonight, over the safety and living conditions near a migrant shelter on Randall's Island.
All right, the latest incident caught by our camera involves a woman being carried away after suffering some sort of medical incident in the freezing cold.
This comes after a man was stabbed yesterday. Jessica Formoso has the latest.
A police presence was visible tonight on Randall's Island, a day after a man was stabbed in the neck. Cell phone video given to us by a migrant shows the chaos. This woman had just walked in when she saw the victim screaming for help. The man was stabbed. He was screaming, saying he was stabbed in the neck by one of the security guards. She did not want to be identified, but says a group of Venezuelan men got into some type of argument that escalated into a fight. Security got involved. You can see them in the video wearing the yellow vests. 18 people were arrested.
Este es el albergue de la matazón.
They call this place the death shelter, said Angel, who arrived in New York Friday morning. He was placed here at Randall's Island, but says from the moment he walked in, people told him to watch his back.
Antes que me vaya a pasar algo a mí.
Before something happens to me, I'd rather be somewhere else. I'm going to ask to be transferred to another shelter, or if they can get me on a flight to another state. Migrants we spoke to say they sleep with one eye open and one eye shut, fearing
Now, this is Randall's Island. They have people in tents. You see the tents over here. The city set up these tents to house the influx of migrants coming in that's being shipped in from Texas. Again, take a look at these tents. They're outside on an island off of Manhattan, and they're sending people here on these tents so they can begin a new life to figure things out. So the people, again, are just in these tents on this island, just trying to figure things out. They're stabbing each other. There's a little violence going on that happens here and there. But let's take a look at these conditions and tell me, what do you think?
they will be attacked. This stabbing comes less than 2 weeks after a 24-year-old man was stabbed to death inside this same shelter. We reached out to City Hall asking if they are aware of how unsafe some migrants feel, but we have not heard back. As we were out here reporting on the stabbings, our camera caught the moment a migrant woman suffered a medical emergency. She was unconscious, just kept having seizures, said this migrant who came to her aid but did not want to be identified. The young woman who they called that.
Now you're seeing the conditions. Some people don't have coats. There's children out there. You know, and they're on an island. Again, they're on an island. They're on an island. They're trying to get these people into schools, the young children that's coming over, and they're on an island. So the near that don't have any schools, no stores. So the nearest schools, if you're gonna put these children in schools, is either in the Bronx or Manhattan. Now they have to go across a bridge every day from this island, living in these tents, for their children to go to school. What do you do here? What do you do? What the hell do you do? Now, not all migrants are living in these tents. You got about 500 people a day moving into these tents. Some people are scattered. They move from the tents to other shelters throughout the city. We have about 200 shelters throughout the city that people transfer from these tents. But here's the thing. Once you transfer from these tents to these other temporary shelters, you're only supposed to have 60 days. 60 days they're going to give you. In the next shelter, which is probably a hotel, you have 60 days or you'll get evicted. Now we got hundreds of thousands of people in the system, and you're telling them that they have 60 days or else they'll be evicted. After the 60 days, you have to go to another hotel to reapply for housing again. This is a crisis that's brewing throughout the city. And if you don't believe me, let's take a look. Let's continue to take a look. Let's jump right in here. Let's jump right in here. Let's take a look at what's going on.
Today.
Freezing out here.
Our mayor is a slumlord. So because of the cold weather, there's been a lot of attention on migrant families who are being evicted from local shelters after 60 days.
Everyone knows it has been freezing out here, and this new policy that evicts migrant families with children after 60 days has been in place for almost 2 weeks. Now behind me you can see the Roosevelt Hotel. This has been serving as a welcome center for newly arriving migrants, and now the reticketing center for migrant families with eviction notices.
Meanwhile, some migrant families have started being evicted from the Row Hotel in Midtown.
Forced out of the Row Hotel, this couple is just one of about 40 migrant families who were told their time is up. It's inconvenient, he said, referring to the eviction notice they received back in October while expecting a baby. The pregnancy in its final weeks and the stress I feel, she said, explaining she's 8 months pregnant and wishes officials made an exception.
Our mayor is a slumlord.
City council members and immigration advocates blasting Mayor Eric Adams and his administration for implementing a policy that evicts migrant families with children after 60 days. If these families cannot find their own housing within that time, they have to return to the Roosevelt Hotel.
I want to pause it right here. So now you got families coming in. They're taking them off the bus, putting them on an island in a tent, giving them about 60 days from there to get moved on to a hotel shelter where they then again have 60 days. 60 days, people. You have children. You have 2 or 3 children, and you have 60 days from the point you are at that temporary shelter / hotel to figure it out. You don't have working papers. You probably don't speak a lot of English. You're trying to meet with, connect with any family or friends you may have here, and you have 60 days, or else you have to come back to another location to reapply for shelter. Again, when they shift you, when you're getting evicted, if they house you again, they're moving you to a different location. So if your children are in school at one school, right, if they relocate you, you still have to figure out how you're going to get your children to school from the new location.
And reapply for shelter. While a similar policy for single adult migrants has been in place for several months, this new recent policy change that now impacts migrant families with children has many, including the city council speaker, pushing back against the mayor.
I urge the mayor to abandon this counterproductive and cruel tactic, and instead pursue more sound management.
Last week, the administration amended this policy so that pregnant migrants in their third trimester and women with newborn babies will not receive eviction notices until their babies turn 6 months old. In response to the rally, the Adams administration says they've had to make these drastic policy decisions because they're out of room and resources to care for such a large number of migrants, calling again for a federal solution. More than 170,000 migrants have received care since the spring of 2022, and 68,000 migrants are currently being housed by the city. Deputy Speaker Diana Ayala disagreed with the mayor that the city is out of...
All right. We're going to take a look here and see what Joe Biden has to say about this situation that's happening in New York with the migrant situation. Let's take a look at Joe Biden's response at the border. Let's see what he has to say.
And I want to talk about another top issue, the border. Now, I love how it's turned on, and Biden's for a free and open border. Just tear down everything, let everybody come, no restrictions. Well, I used to be a bipartisan in this country, and it should be one again. I've been clear from the very beginning, the system is broken. My first day in office, I sent Congress a comprehensive plan on immigration reform. My friends on the other side have done nothing with that.
Listen, man. This guy is saying that he sends partition bills down to Texas to stop the border down in Texas. We're going to have to take a real look into that, because if he's looking for participation from the other side, let's see what the Republican governor of Texas is doing down in Texas. Since Biden says he's looking to work with the Republicans, let's just take a look real quick of what the Republican governor is doing down in Texas. Let's take a look. Let's take a friggin' look.
Abbott are making it no secret they're putting in more razor wire at the southern border just days after the U.S. Supreme Court gave the go-ahead to the federal government to remove the wire. In a lengthy statement, Governor Greg Abbott is reiterating arguments he cited before, asserting that the federal government has fallen short of its constitutional duties to protect the southern border. He's specifically citing U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3, which says in part, no state shall, without the consent of Congress, keep troops in time of peace, unless actually invaded. Governor Abbott has said the state is being invaded. The question is, would the courts agree?
It's not the kind of invasion that they were thinking of.
All right.
That they
Let's take a look at this. Let's take a real quick look at this. So, you got President Biden, who says he's looking to pass bipartisan bills. If he really wanted to get something done, the governor of Texas, he's down there. Hold on, guys. Sheesh. So the governor of Texas, he's down there. Not only is he down there wiring up the border, barbed wiring down the border, he's not only sending people on buses to New York, But he said, man, President Biden, he ain't doing nothing about this. He ain't doing a goddamn thing about this. I'm going to have to step my game up. And we're not waiting for a bipartisan bill. We're going to bob wire this thing up. Anybody who's here, we're shipping them on buses, and not only buses. They're going to get a G4 little baby flight straight to Chicago. That's right, people. You heard me. Not only are they using taxpayer dollars to fund these people on by bus, right, to New York, we're spending millions of dollars building tents, keeping them in hotels, keeping security up, and we're supposed to automatically grant these people asylum, give them working papers, and allow them to work. Now, the only problem with that is you have some politicians who believe that it won't work out because the jobs, if you have people who can't speak English and trying to retool and retrain them, the jobs that they normally would take are not available. Now, let's hear from Mayor Adams and one of the councilwomen on this very idea that we can take in immigrants, house them, grant them asylum, and we'll have jobs available for them, right? We are currently New York is spending $77 million to house immigrants right now, and they're seeking more money from the Biden administration, right? Let's hear, at least from a New York perspective, what's going on from our mayors, our governors, and our councilwomen. Let's hear from Mayor Adams. What the hell is going on? Let's hear from Mayor Adams to see, is this a crisis or not? Is this something we need to worry about or not? Let's just hear from him.
Are bust all over. We've certainly seen that here in New York. As a matter of fact, the mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, just addressed the public today. He made his State of the City address where he discussed the migrant crisis that the city is facing. So let's bring in New York City Councilwoman Vicky Palladino on that. Councilwoman, thank you for joining us. A quick clip here from Mayor Adams just a short time ago talking about the migrants, then we'll talk about it. Here's the mayor.
We did it while marshaling our entire city government to respond to the asylum-seeking humanitarian crisis. This was a team effort, and how we did it? We stayed focused, no distractions, and we grind. That includes members of our nonprofit sector, from stepping up during the pandemic to sheltering our asylum seekers. Their work has supported and defined our city.
Now, again, that's the mayor right there talking about how much of a good job that the city has done to address the migrants. And again, New York has done a pretty good job, because if migrants are dropped in your backyard, what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do as a mayor? They built tents, and sure, they're housing them on an island and moving them around from hotel to hotel. But the problem is, we just spent $77 million in a year to house these people, from housing to shelter to healthcare, food, and everything like that. $77 million, and the city is seeking more. And we're supposed to grant these people asylum and give them jobs. Hear what the councilwoman, Vicky Palladino, has to say about the governor, about Mayor Adams' plan and job that New York City has done so far.
In this type of a speech, you get, what politicians would, or what we would call, when we see politicians take kind of a victory lap, saying, and it seems like the mayor's saying, hey, we got through this, but have we?
No, not at all. As a matter, thank you for having me on.
Yep.
I appreciate it. Actually, what today was a State of the District speech. Everybody, completely different from a news conference. Everybody understands exactly what's going on And what the mayor needed to do today, and he did, he tried to bring across a very positive message that the city on a whole is doing well. That where crime is down, jobs are up. And he just dabbled on the migrant crisis by saying that, of course, this is Biden's fault and Greg Abbott's fault. But he only touched on it. He had it, hit it, and then jump off it quick so that there would be no problems with the people sitting in the audience, and he could go on to the next thing that's happening in New York City on a positive note.
Now, it's again to point out that the mayor was just having a meeting amongst, it wasn't a press conference, it was just a meeting amongst New York City officials where he tried to make himself look good. But this problem that we're seeing across New York, if you go to a Home Depot, you will think it's a Black Friday sale. You will think it's a Black Friday sale. Things that make you go, what? There's so much people, man, at Home Depot. You would think it's a Black Friday, man, sale. How immigrants are lining up for work, right? Now, we're gonna have a terrible problem on our hands. It's wintertime. Kids need a stable place to live if you're gonna put them in the education system. And these people are gonna need jobs. These people are going to need jobs, right? What the hell are we gonna do if people can't find jobs? They're gonna turn to violence and crime. We got people sleeping at airports. You got people moving around from shelter to shelter. And now let's hear from the councilwoman about jobs. Are we gonna have jobs available for these immigrants that we're taking in, that's seeking asylum and working papers? Mayor Adams is looking to grant these people asylum and is asking for the Fed to hurry up the process so we get these people working. Now, a lot of these people are coming from Venezuela. Most can't speak English or little English. What jobs are we going to have available to retool these people? Let's hear from the councilwoman herself.
Average New Yorker now can barely afford to put dinner on their table, and we see our cops leaving. You know, it's the same story. We're putting the needle on the record again. And as far as giving them work permits, do you know that New York from last year is up 98% in unemployment?
Don't let this go over your head. You got New York City Inc. $77 million in emergency hotel contract shelters for immigrant families, okay? They sought out $77 million. They're saying to add to the budget, it may add about $1.5 billion to the budget just to deal with the migrant crisis. And they're asking for money from the Fed, right? At the same time, New York City is working with the Fed to implement a congestion toll in Manhattan. It's going to be the first of its kind. A congestion toll in Manhattan because they're saying that the city is overcrowded. It's overpopulated. So they're going to put a toll in the city to deal with the congestion. But yet they're dropping millions of migrants here. We need money. We need funding. $77 million just to house migrants. I guess somebody has to pay for it. So that's where the congestion toll comes in. Sheesh. Things that make you go, what?
From last year is up 98% in unemployment. So when he talks about jobs, he's talking about those low-wage jobs. Now imagine
Well, the
the
unemployment rate's not
minority.
up that, but what do you mean by that, just real quick?
No. By that I mean from last year,
Right.
we have gone downhill by 98% as far as jobs availability. Now, if you're looking at
Okay.
simple, yeah, if you're looking at the simple jobs, which the migrants would want, flipping the burgers and doing all of that,
The
we
jobs
have enough.
aren't available
Here.
for
Right, the jobs are
anybody,
not
whether it's
available,
them or
and they'll
anybody else.
work
No, I
for
see what you're
$3 an
saying
hour.
on that. I don't
They'll
know the
work for
exact numbers,
$10
but
an hour.
right, I know what you're saying. Let me move on because not just a New York story, but I do.
Let's pull that back. I don't want that to go over your
And
heads.
doing all of that. We
She's saying within the last year,
98%. As
she's saying within the last year, job availability overall in New York has gone down by 98%. She literally says the flipping of the burgers and the low end jobs, minimum wage jobs, are drying up. They're drying up. The jobs that they usually typically would give to these immigrants, they're actually going down. So what are we supposed to do? What jobs are supposed to be available? Let's run it again.
as far as jobs availability. Now, if you're looking at simple, yeah, if you're looking at the simple jobs, which the migrants would want, flipping the burgers and doing all of that,
The jobs aren't available for anybody, whether it's them or anybody else. No, I see what you're saying on that. I don't know the exact numbers, but
Again, she just said these jobs are not becoming readily available. They're shrinking. They're shrinking. The lower end minimum wage jobs that people would get in the city in New York are shrinking. And she's saying that while saying these immigrants would be willing to work for $3 an hour, $10 an hour. Ladies and gentlemen, minimum wage in New York City is $15 an hour. Again, I don't know where you're at, but in New York City, minimum wage is $15 an hour. These migrants are coming in and they're willing to work for as low as $3 an hour or $10 an hour. On average, let's call it $8 an hour. They're willing to work for $8 an hour, $10 an hour. Give them $10 an hour and 4 hours at a job. That's $40. They're willing to work for that and go back to their shelter and be proud. To start a new life from coming from Venezuela and different parts of South America where there's war and tragedy and just gang violence all around and not a lot of opportunity, they'll come here and turn that into something, knowing that they have opportunity down the line in the future. They'll come here, they'll try to make their start off of $3 an hour to $10 an hour. The problem is those jobs are shrinking. You're now competing with the average American citizen, maybe a young teenager, a young 20-year-old person, and you're coming in from another country and the jobs are just not available. And we need to figure something out because it is turning into a crisis, not only in New York, but in Boston, in Chicago, Ohio, different parts of the country, Philadelphia, where people are starting to migrate. This is turning into a crisis, and we're going to touch on this, and we're going to take a look at Chicago and Boston next. Today, we were just looking at New York, some of the issues that New York is dealing with, but We have to pay attention to this while we're in an election year, and it's serious, people. We're gonna be taking a look at this a little bit further. I want you guys to stay with me. We're gonna have more videos again later on. Thank you for tuning in to What TV. Drop a comment. Tell me what you guys think of the immigration situation that we got going on in the country. Do we need to holler at Trump, man? Do we need to get Trump back in the building? You guys let me know. Let me know your thoughts. Like, subscribe, and tune into the next video where we're gonna touch in a little bit more on this, because man, god damn it, man, these migrants, they flying better than little baby, man. They got the G4 on the runway. The Texas governor is giving them the G4, flying these people private now on private flights, dropping them in Chicago and Boston. And we are going to take a look into that next. Like, subscribe, and get ready for the next video, y'all. Peace out. It's your boy Ace. Thank you for tuning in. Run it.